Dave Parody here with another Slide Makeover video podcast based on the ideas in my book, The Visual Slide Revolution. In today's video, we're going to be talking about how to make definitions interesting. And this is a typical slide that we will see when in a teaching or training situation, we need to convey the information about what certain terms mean. What's their definition? And unfortunately, what happens far too often is we simply take the definition from a textbook, a dictionary, whatever it is. This is coming from Webster's Online, and we simply put them on the slide and typically just read them to the audience. Now, simply reading it to them doesn't really help them understand what those terms mean. And the idea for today's video came from a set of slides that I'm working on for a client right now. And they have revised one of their training courses, and they've asked me to take a look at their sets of slides that they're going to be using across the country to deliver this training course, and to give them some ideas about how they could be a little more effective. And one of the slides I looked at initially was exactly this, is definitions. Now, it's not these specific terms, but you get the idea. The question is, how do we make this more interesting? Because many times we have to get the information across. How do we make it more interesting? So let me show you the makeover that I did for the first term, assets, and walk you through what we can do to make this more interesting when we present. So here we go. So folks, let's talk about what are assets. What in your mind, when you see that term assets, what do you think of? And see, now we have discussion amongst the group. They might have heard of the term, they may have their own idea of what it might mean. As the presenter, I can then be able to say, gee, that's on the right track, that's a good idea. And if there are any misconceptions, things where people have believed this term means something that it does not, I can clear that up right away, because it's important we clear it up. Next I want to do is I want to give examples. So let me give you some examples of what would be considered assets on the balance sheet. So first of all, the easiest one is cash. Any cash on hand or in investments would be considered one of the assets. There are the buildings that the business owns. Those are considered assets. The vehicles that the business might own, whether they be trucks or other types of vehicles, and the equipment that they own. In this case, it's in a manufacturing plant. Invoices. Now, accounts receivable are considered assets. These are the invoices we have sent out to customers, but they have not yet paid, because we're going to get the payment. And finally, one of the assets that's becoming more and more valuable to many businesses is the category of intellectual property or goodwill, if we've purchased any other businesses. But intellectual property, in fact, there are some businesses that are created solely on owning an asset, which would be a patent or some other intellectual property asset. So these are all examples of assets. Here's the definition I want you to remember about assets. Assets are anything that the business owns that can be converted into cash. So all of the asset examples that I've given you here, we can convert those into cash by selling it to someone else if it's not already in cash. So what I did in this makeover is I made it a lot more visual, a lot more meaningful and interesting for the audience. So before we get to the lessons, just a quick reminder, if you want to find out more information about the book, go to www.visualsliderevolution.com. For more information on my training, consulting, videos, and other resources, go to my website at www.ThinkOutsideTheSlide.com. So here are the lessons to make definitions more interesting. First of all, give an opportunity for discussion. People have probably heard this term before, and that gets the audience engaged, gets them involved, sharing with you, and they may have some great additions to what you had come up with as a definition. That discussion also gives you an opportunity to clear up any of the definitions that they have that are actually incorrect. We want to make sure we clear those up first, so that people go, okay, what I was thinking is not correct. I need to know what the new definition is. And then show examples. I used photographs here and the text to explain what it is you're seeing, because I want you to see the examples of what I'm talking about. This makes it real to someone, because many times these terms might be abstract. We might only see them in a document, or in the example I was using, on a financial statement. But we need to make them real for people so that they have an emotional connection. And then finally, end with giving them the definition that you want them to remember, because you want to make sure at the end of all the examples they get they get the idea, okay, now what do I need to remember? Here's the definition I need to remember. So if you're in a training or teaching situation where you have to deliver information that are definitions of terms, keep these ideas in mind and you'll make your presentation more effective. Thanks. This has been Dave Parody.